This is the Triple Play Fantasy Basketball Show. I am your host, Coach James Lewis, back again, trying our best to help you win your fantasy basketball league. It's week 3 approaching, people, and we want you to get you hip about games played, notable injuries, waiver wire, hot and warm pickups, people you need to flat out drop, as well as our fantasy performances of the week. But first, it is my pleasure to introduce a man representing the Midwest, a University of Colorado graduate, co-host of the Super Fantasy Bros here on Triple Play Fantasy, as well as a distinguished writer for RotoWire, Fantasy Bros, New Life Fantasy, reminding fantasy owners that on Saturday, it ain't done yet. That's where you can find them at ain't Dunne yet. Mr. Jacob Dunne, what's up?
What's up, my man? Ain't done yet. That's right, guys. Your job ain't done yet, all right? You have to be active on those waiver wires. You have to be one step ahead of your opponent here, guys, all right? While everyone's playing checkers, you got to play chess. You have to be one move ahead of everyone else, and we are here to do that, and I am pumped to join you. I am super, super excited to join you each week. This is going to be great, man.
Absolutely. And don't you hate it when it's Saturday and you look at your Sunday lineup and you got 3 guys and the person you're playing has 7?
Absolutely.
God, you're up, 6 categories and it can all fall in your face right there at the last second.
And then you have that tough decision to make. Do I drop this borderline guy to try to stream? But then maybe your stream doesn't do as well, and you just, and then you just cut someone valuable. It's hard decisions here, but we are here to help you make those, guys.
Yeah, and in the playoffs, it's kind of an easier decision because you don't go worry about this said player killing you the rest of the season. Right. There only might be 4 or 6 teams left. And at that point, it's anybody's ball game. Those are the best teams in your league. So here early in the season, you might want to hold back on that rookie or that player that maybe hasn't reached their full potential. Right. Before we dive in, I wanted to touch on Colorado alumni, as we got Spencer Dinwiddie, who besides him not playing back-to-backs is looking like a certified stud when it comes to fantasy and higher than his ranking was. Derek White, which had high expectations, but his season isn't going too well. Do you got a favorite Colorado basketball alumni?
Well, first of all, I got to give love to Chauncey Billups.
Big shot. Yeah, I didn't mention him as he's coaching for Portland Trailblazers. I was hoping he went in that direction, but yeah, he's got to be the number one.
Number one, man. He is a legend. I mean, there is a mural inside of CU Stadium. It's so cool. But yeah, I mean, like I watched Spencer Dinwiddie play as a freshman. I mean, he only played about 9 games because he tore his ACL. And then he was a one and done. But I was super excited for him this year because he's going on virtually a wasteland team in the Washington Wizards. He's going to have all the run that he can handle, alongside Bradley Beal, which should bring up his assists. Now, he's not the greatest shooter. He doesn't add steals and blocks, but I love watching Dinwiddie on offense. He is a maestro. So he's probably my favorite buff of all time. And yeah, Derek White was there for 1 year, and he was a lot of fun to watch as well. So, I love Derek White for his steals and for his defense. I love Spencer Dinwiddie. I love Spencer Dinwiddie for his offense. So see you Buffs, man. We're coming at you. We're coming at you, NBA.
Yeah, and from a guy from the DMV area, Spencer, watching the Wizards play this year, it's clearly a different cast of characters. There was a big trade with the Lakers. New head coach and Wes Unseld Jr. looks like a completely different offense, completely different defense. Like Bradley Beal is not going to lead or come close to leading the league in points, but he might get more assists now. And Spencer doesn't necessarily always crush it in assists. He'll get you 6 or 7, but he makes the right play. He's a winning basketball player. And I actually was watching that last year before he tore his ACL for the Nets. He was starting in that lineup and he fit perfectly with Kyrie and Kevin. And this was even before the James Harden trade. And I thought that if he would have stayed healthy and they would have just not even made the James Harden trade, they would have still, to me, would have been the best team in the NBA. So Spencer Dinwiddie, a little bad luck with the tearing your ACL. That does help you improve some of your skills though with the downtime, and he's definitely showcased that. So shout out Spencer Dinwiddie and all the Buffaloes out there in the NBA.
That's right. Right on.
All right. We're going to start with taking a look at our schedules this week. Now, in the past and years in fantasy, you've seen up and down. Sometimes fantasy, the scheduling was kind of messed up as far as some teams would have 5 games in a week, other teams would have 2, and you'd be completely screwed. But what I've basically seen is 4-3. So it makes it a lot more even as far as that's concerned. So shout out Adam Silver on that. So teams with 4 games this week. So if you're looking for a pickup, somebody to fill in for an injury, you have the Hawks, the Nets, the Hornets, the Cavs, Mavericks, Rockets, Pacers, Clippers, Knicks, Magic, 76ers, Blazers, Kings, Spurs, Raptors, Jazz, and Wizards, all teams with 4 games. So you want to keep that in your back pocket, as well as teams with 3, Celtics, Bulls, Warriors, Lakers, Grizzlies, Heat, Bucks, T-Wolves, Pels, OKC, and the Phoenix Suns. So if you're like kind of on the borderline between maybe a guard for the Celtics because Marcus Smart is out, or a guard for the Hawks, you might want to go with the Hawks guard because they play 1 more game this week. That's of course including bubble players. Other news, injuries that vary from serious to not as serious. Doug McDermott out for the Spurs after he was getting, close to 30 minutes a game. People thought Thad Young might have gotten that, and that opens up more opportunities. Keldon Johnson that maybe not producing like some fantasy owners wished after going into the Olympics. Mike Connolly, obviously he's been dealing with injuries for years. For the Wizards, Rui Hachimura and Daniel Gafford, who had a slight knee contusion. I don't know if because this has kind of been something under the rug, but Rui Hachimura's situation for the Wizards has been very weird since training camp, where he didn't show up at first for personal reasons. He then, unfollowed basically everyone on his IG.
Right.
I don't know what's happening at home because he in the summer in the Olympics he played well for Japan, and you're kind of expecting a big year from him, and now the Wizards are flat out loaded in that position. So those are things of note that maybe help people like Kyle Kuzma excel.
Right.
Other injuries, Malcolm Brogdon, who's been listed day to day, but his coach Carlisle says the hamstring is strained, right? And so for Yahoo, I would love his eligibility to be able to put him on my IL because he's currently rotting on my roster, but in ESPN, he is eligible to go into that IL situation. And last year it was a complete flip. I did want to talk to you about that. Are you somebody that plays in both the ESPN and the Yahoo League?
So I actually do. I have a Dynasty Basketball League on ESPN, and in my redraft league, I do Yahoo. Now, I found that ESPN is very liberal with their injuries and stashing them in their IL. Like if they miss 1 game, you can automatically put it in your IL. On Yahoo, they have to be announced that they have to miss 3 or more games before they actually give the IL designation. So Yahoo is a little bit frustrating with that. Like you said, he's rotting on my bench as well. And my IL spot is already taken by Zion Williamson. So it's like, I guess I just have to stream, which is what you guys have to do. If you guys are holding on to Zion, to Ben Simmons, to Malcolm Brogdon, Kyrie Irving, like you have to stream to make up for that, especially in points leagues. I mean, like you just have to have an empty spot to try to make up for those points that you're missing out. And what stinks about Malcolm Brogdon is that injuries are nothing new to him. Like he is pretty fragile. When he's healthy, he's a beast. He's a monster. But these hamstring injuries are very tricky, which is why, if you have to hold on to him, because there is no like he's going to be out for a week or he's going to be out for a few games. Like the coach is holding out hope. that he is going to return soon. Now, my gut says that he's not going to play for another 1 to 2 games at best. I think that's best case scenario, like if he returns next week. But TJ McConnell is someone that I want, especially if you want some assists.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you pointed out because he was definitely going to get brought up. He's been a fantasy darling to most last year when injuries occurred, and the Pacers backcourt dealt with a lot of that last year. And he just loads up on dimes and is the best, almost the best steal getter per minute.
Yes.
I know he has an NBA record as far as he has the most steals in the backcourt of anyone all time since they've been keeping track of that stat. So
wow,
shout out TJ McConnell, and he shoots high percentages too. He'll get you some threes, and visually, just watching him as a basketball player, you root for like the little white guy that's just tough as nails and kicks ass. So definitely pick him up, especially when Brogdon is out. It's funny that you mentioned that as far as ESPN being better at that, because last year it was the complete opposite. ESPN, you had to wait forever. And Yahoo, once you got that O next to a player's name, you were eligible to put him on a bench. So why did they flop? I don't know. That was one of the reasons why I loved Yahoo, because I think that, you know, their application wise, it's easier to look at. The stats that they're giving you as far as rostered spots and pickups are more visual friendly, more friendly to the consumer. So a little gripe with Yahoo there.
A little bit.
Rolling out on the injuries. Marcus Smart is out for the Celtics. Drew Holiday for the Bucks, which we will mention somebody on our pickups coming very soon. And then the big one, Patrick Williams, probably out for the year. And then Cody White is out for at least another month in time. So the Bulls, their bench becomes more prominent, which I'm sure that the starters don't mind having to spend some more time here. We're going to start with our pickups. People to look at, maybe somebody to definitely grab, maybe somebody like, you know, you really want to watch. Our pickups last week worked pretty well. Me and Coach Kev, we talked about Ricky Rubio, who's a must own. We talked about Tyrese Maxey was a must own. Chris Duarte, especially with Malcolm Brogdon, he's still going to get you big buckets and threes and grab some rebounds. Will Barton, Precious Achua still relevant with Pascal out. So, you know, we're trying to win you a league. And this week, especially with Drew Holiday out, I'm going to start with not really the people's champ here, because most people think he's a prick, and that is Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen, though, is a bucket. He has double digits in every single game. He gives you rebounds. He's shooting a three exceptionally, and of course, in that Buck system, they love that. He's rostered in only 27% of leagues. He's got an uptick of 9% this week, so you want to get on top of it, especially with his shooting guard and small forward eligibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Grayson Allen is getting a lot of run in the starting lineup because the Bucks are decimated by injuries right now. So, you know, you love him. You love him for those threes, and you love them for like those quiet rebounds, slight assists, but he doesn't get turnovers either. So that is gold in 9-cat leagues.
Yeah, and you see his 3-point percentage is only at 32.6 right now. That means he is throwing them up there. That will increase. He is a good shooter. Another guy to keep in mind in that backcourt is Patrick Connaughton as well. They're both logging in heavy minutes, and they do similar things on offense. So I would say Grayson Allen for right now is a solid pickup for this week. When I'm going to send over to Jacob for one of his number one picks to pick up this week.
All right, guys, it's Lonnie Walker IV. All right, Lonnie hasn't played less than 25 minutes in any game so far this season. All right, which is great news for his fantasy floor. You know, through 5 games, like you see, he is averaging 15 points, 3.2 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 2.4 3-pointers made. He's averaging 25.24 fantasy points per game, which is good for just inside the top 100. He's been starting as of late with the Doug McDermott injury, like we mentioned earlier. So expect solid numbers until McBuckets comes back. But even when Doug returns, Lonnie is still going to have a huge role off the bench and contribute for you in points, rebounds, assists, and 3 points made.
Absolutely. And he's a guy that when he gets it hot, when he gets hot, he gets it rolling. He might give you
Yeah.
3 games of 20 plus, and he's a confidence built player. And they are flying up and down with that 3 guard lineup, and then
Yeah.
Keldon like at the 4. So outside of Pirtle, they really are running and gunning, and it's definitely a different Pop system. But Pop has kind of been sticking to his minutes. Like you said, he hasn't played
Yes.
less than 25 minutes in any game, and he's averaging 25.8 minutes a game. I think he's pretty set in these rotations.
Yeah.
And so shout out Lonnie Walker the fourth. We've all mentioned the Spurs backcourt. It looks like DeJounte Murray was the steal of them all because
Right.
he's just a rebound machine. He's a
Mhm.
walking triple double. So if you got DeJounte Murray, you are very, very happy fantasy basketball owner.
And that's a young Spurs team. Like Greg Popovich wants to give his young guns a lot of playing time because this is a team that could compete, but they need some experience. And Lonnie is only 22 years old. It wasn't 2 years ago he was a high draft pick for the Spurs. All right, so they believe in him. They want him to get some run. So I would definitely add him just to see if he can keep this up. But he should, because like we keep saying, he hasn't played less than 25 minutes in any game this season. Greg Popovich wants to give him run.
Absolutely. So, and keep your eye on Devin Vassell, second year player. He's he's been up and down. He
Yes.
had a game where he had 19. He's a good shooter. So, just to keep an eye on Vassell as well. Not kind of pointing out to grab him just yet, but these second, third year players with opportunity, you definitely want to give a look out, and you do not want to miss out on, say, Mo Bamba, that is probably the biggest free agent target steal that I've seen in fantasy just yet. I think yesterday he had like 18 rebounds.
He's a beast. He is
He
a
is a beast
beast.
and he hits 3. So
Yep.
a guy that for me was the most common pickup drop player
Mhm.
probably in the league, including I probably stationed him like 4 times. A guy that gets steals. This is the legend of Lou Dort. He's playing heavy minutes at 32 minutes a clip. He's not shooting it great, but he's not afraid to shoot it. He's shooting 20% from the 3-point line, and that's 2.2 a game based off of his attempts.
Mhm.
So that's definitely category driven. He's shooting 6 or 7 a game, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He's a guy that will excite you and then frustrate you the next game. One of the biggest points that I looked at, and this is a 39% roster player -5 that I'm recommending that could be rosterable in a 12 team cat league, just at the bottom of that bench, and you won't feel bad about dropping a Lou Dort. So he is a serviceable guy for like a week if you wanted to. What I liked the most this week is that he played back to back. At the end of last year, I know they were tanking big time, and he was helping them win games. So they were not playing him back to back. The fact that he is playing every single game gets me more intrigued. OKC is like waiver wire central for the entire year.
Mhm.
Did you want to mention your guy from OKC that you want people to look at?
Yeah, so I was going to bring up Darius Bazley. Now, Darius Bazley is the exact same as Dort with like awful field goal percentage. But they both are on this young Thunder team that isn't going anywhere. So the Thunder have they need to play their young guys as many minutes as they can. And like you just saw, Lou Dort is averaging 32.8 minutes. Darius Bazley, he is playing in the upwards of 20 minutes a game, somewhere in the 30s. Like Darius Bazley to me is more of a points league dandy. All right, he has poor field goal percentage, but he has all the opportunity in the world to produce stats every single night. Like he just had an incredible game against the Los Angeles Lakers the other night.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook wasn't too happy about how that game finished.
No, he was not. I mean, it's revenge season for us. So, I get it. Like Bazley is currently ranked the 85th ranked player in points league. He's averaging 26.34 fantasy points. The Thunder are going to give him a lot of run this year as they're in a serious rebuild. So Bazley gives you that safe floor. And I would say the same for Dort. Although Dort is a little bit more talented. I like Dort a little bit more than a Darius Bazley. Dort is getting a bunch of minutes, and he has that capability. Like last year, he exploded late in the season for a 42-point night. He has that. He has that capability. So
Yeah,
I like Dort and I like Bazley. As long as these young Thunders are getting PT, they should be rostered.
and I think they found some players that they're going to log heavy minutes where they're not going to win games, and they like these guys. They like Dort, they like Bazley, they like Roby from time to time, and
Right.
Pokochevsky, guys that certain weeks they're rosterable. What do you think about that play at the end? You get a steal and you dunk it within the last 5 seconds. Is that Bush League, or is that like you shouldn't have passed it to the other team? It was a 5-point game with 5 seconds left.
It's just one of those things. I mean, like, like the kid's excited. He wants to, like he wants to create like
Yes.
a TikTok buzz, a Twitter buzz, and like he wants to slam it home. He wants to make a statement. So, if 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 I was on the other team, I would hate it. If I was on his team, a fan of him, like I am all for it.
Yeah, and then
It's
how
fun.
many times does OKC beating the Lakers since the franchise
Exactly.
existed? Like that's exciting. Like, but I'm not mad at Russell Westbrook getting mad either, though. That's just like
Sure.
this is me. I'm alpha. This is my team. Don't mess with
Right.
us, or I'm gonna let you know about it and hear about it. So I understand both sides of it, but I'm not mad at Darius Bazley for dunking that. Like, are
Man.
you kidding me? I feel like I've seen Russ dunking in the final minute off steals.
Of course.
Um, all right, our next guy, who you pointed out to me,
Yeah.
and a guy maybe with Patrick Williams going out, Kobe White still being out. That is the bald
Yeah.
Mamba. I want you to talk about Alex Caruso a little bit.
The bald mamba. I love that, man. Yeah, man. The bald mamba is averaging 8.4 points, 3.6 assists, and a whopping 3 steals per game. All right. That is huge. He's also averaging 24.92 fantasy points through his first 5 games, which is great because he's coming off the bench. And with all these injuries with Patrick Williams and Kobe White, he's going to be relied upon even more. And he was given the bag this summer. All right. So he's a solid linchpin at the end of your bench in points league and a must own in 9-cat leagues for his ability to rack up steals in a hurry.
Absolutely, much like TJ O'Connell that led the league last year.
Right.
Caruso kind of fills it up all around, and when he's shooting that high of percentages, it makes your eyes open up. Also, the 29 minutes a game, it seems like he's found a secure role there with Billy
Yes.
Donovan's system, and he's actually a winning player. Love his perimeter defense. I think that the Lakers are hurting in that department a little bit with him out, and then Contavious Caldwell-Pope. Those are things that aren't really too mentionable. You talk about outside shooting, but those guys they're elite defenders, and
Right.
I think the Lakers are definitely missing out. So Alex Caruso is definitely possible for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
A repeat offender that people are getting hit. Last week, this number said 18. Today, Franz Wagner is 40% roster. That's an uptick of 26%.
Nice.
He's double digit in every game. He's giving you a block and a steal a game, where that right there makes somebody wanted to be rosterable. Plus, he's hitting 2 threes a game at a high percentage. He'll grab you like 4 rebounds. You're looking at 14, 15 points. Nothing that's going to win you leagues, but somebody that, again, in a 12-team cat league, he should be rosterable. He shouldn't be
Yes.
out there in the wires, depending on your team. So Franz Wagner, a guy that's getting a 30+ minutes a game in a injury-riddled Orlando Magic team that has Okiki out and has Jonathan Isaac coming off an ACL injury, still hasn't played. For the time being, Franz Wagner is a rookie stud and a guy that I wouldn't say necessarily to pick up, but Terrence Ross is one of those Sunday guys that you could get that could give you 25 when he gets hot. And I actually played against Terrence Ross in high school, and he was going to
Really?
Montrose Christian, and he was a sophomore, and
That's
he was
cool.
like the best player on the team then. He's just as electric athletically, and he has a very high confidence when he sees a shot go in. So this 2.2 threes a game, he's always had that he had one game last week where he had 0 and he's still averaging 13 points a game. So I look at that as well.
Yeah.
Is he could completely flop on you on Sunday, but he could also push you over if you're trying to stream on Sunday and get those buckets at the end. So 2 guys for Orlando. Your take on the 2 of them? Would you roster them? Because I say I wouldn't pick up Ross, but somebody that like he's at the top of my watch list. I would say.
So I would rather roster Franz Wagner.
Yeah.
Just because he is starting and he's producing for this young Orlando Magic team, like you said, is void of playmakers outside of Cole Anthony.
Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs had his breakout moment last night against Scotty Barnes. They both had went for 20 plus. And did you see Scotty Barnes take 3 dribbles off a rebound and dunk it?
That was so
who in the
sick.
NBA can do that? That's insane. That's some Russell Westbrook like hybrid version because he's 6'9". That's crazy.
Man, I have Scotty Barnes. I took a flyer on him, and I am so happy right now. But yeah,
give him some center eligibility, people. He does play the center position. Same thing with Precious Achiuwa. Can both of those guys? Because who's Toronto's center outside of Boucher when they're both playing on the court? Give them some eligibility.
Right.
Sorry.
Yes. No.
Sorry for my rant.
That's true. No, man, I love it. Yeah. So I was just gonna say Franz Wagner is definitely someone that you want to have on your team until Jonathan Isaac and Chuma Okeke come back, like you said. But Jonathan Isaac, we have no idea when he's going to come back. There is no clear timetable. Once he does come back, though, Franz Wagner is irrelevant. But we don't know when Isaac is coming back. So roster Wagner. But as far as Terrence Ross goes, he's kind of one of those guys I can take him or leave him just because of his field goal percentage. And like you said, he's a little bit streaky. But, in that game against New York a few games ago, I mean, he went off and so did Cole Anthony. Like he has those fire moments, like those NBA Jam fire moments where he, hits 3 shots in a row and he can't miss the rest of the night. So I get it.
But beginning of last year, I feel like he was like averaging 20 for the first 3-4 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, like this is a young Orlando Magic team that need that scoring punch off the bench, and that's what Ross gets you. It's just that your field goal percentage might take a dip, but at least he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. And if you need 3-pointers, then he's definitely rosterable. If you don't need 3-pointers, I don't mind leaving him on the wire, but he's more valuable than not for sure.
Yeah, and he doesn't produce in those other areas. That's why he's kind of like if you pressed like points per game, you click it, he's in that top 5, and you're like, oh, this guy, he's a bucket,
Right.
But look at the other categories. He ain't gonna get you rebound, he ain't gonna get you assists.
Right.
I got another guy coming up, in Eric Gordon, that's the same way. But for the Orlando backcourt, because Michael Carter-Williams and Markelle Fultz are still out on injury. They're just injury riddled there in Orlando. So some of these younger players are getting opportunities. Eric Gordon is a name that I stay away from. I put him in here because people are picking him up. He had a couple games where he had over 20. He gives you points, he gives you threes, he gets you nothing else. But he is much like Terrence Ross, where you press points per game. He's going to be at the top of the list on your waiver wire every week. And on Sunday, you might take a gamble to try to win you over a week. So in my league, we get 3 pickups a week. And so strategizing around that and maybe using your last pickup of the week on a Sunday is okay, because then you can, on Monday, it resets and you get 3 more and you can just drop the guy. And I've done that. Sometimes I like my bottom 2 roster spots to be people like this that I can interchange and get rid of or add at the same time. He has shooting guard and small forward eligibility because of the guards in the lineups that they have with Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. But Eric Gordon is somebody that can give you 30, but somebody that I wouldn't own.
Yeah, this is a very young Houston Rockets team that is giving this 32-year-old Eric Gordon a lot of playing time, which tells me that the Rockets are really trying to showcase him to try to trade him for a younger asset. So Eric Gordon he needs to perform. Like he's trying to reinvent himself. He's trying to reestablish himself as a knockdown shooter. So he has all the incentive in the world to produce for you guys. So if you do need threes, I would give him a look. But his field goal percentage right now is good, but it's usually somewhere in the lower 40s.
Yep.
And he doesn't provide much else. So if you do need those threes, I would give him a look in deeper leagues. But outside of that, like you said, I would feel comfortable leaving him on the wire.
And our last guy, a guy that I picked up this week, he had 4 games remaining after Monday, which had a big deal in which why I was getting him. A guy that J Kid enjoys a lot, one of these younger players that are really good, but not necessarily they're not starter caliber, but they're solid starter, much like like a Tyus Jones for the Grizzlies, and that's Jalen Brunson. I've always enjoyed Jalen Brunson ever since freshman year at Villanova when he helped be sort of that sixth man of the team.
Yes.
He's just gritty. I remember his dad playing Rick Brunson, and I always enjoy players when their children come. They're just so sound. They just know the game so well. Now, what I like about him is he'll give you threes, assists, rebound. Like he gives you a little bit of everything. Shoots pretty good percentages. He's got a good connection with Luka. Jalen Brunson is definitely a guy. Now he's 34% rostered, a plus 20 this week. When I picked him up this week, my buddy texted me and said, "You bastard!" I had him, and I got him at like 6 a.m. That's another thing. If you wake up early, when you check these box scores, you are going to be ahead of the game. The people that you see it in your league, they're the noon pickup people. You can beat them to the punch with a guy like Brunson. Now, he doesn't wow you all around. He's not a guy that's going to drop 30 in a game. I mean, maybe he's capable of that if he gets hot from the 3-point line. But I like Jalen Brunson out of this group. I would take him over Gordon, over Ross. It's a toss up with Caruso. Lonnie Walker the fourth, I would take tentatively right now because he's high. But I like me some Brunson.
So I kind of like Brunson as like a poor man Spencer Dinwiddie. Like he'll get you points, he'll get you rebounds and assists and nothing else. Like he's not going to get you steals or blocks at all. But that's why I love him in a points league, especially because he is averaging around 25 fantasy points per game, and that's his thing. All right. Like you said, Jason Kidd loves him, and the Mavericks desperately need that scoring punch off the bench, and that's Jalen Brunson. I love watching Jalen Brunson play. If you have him, then you are rostering him for his points, his rebounds, and assists. And yeah, he does have that capability of scoring 30. Okay, which is great. And plus, if you roster him, he is definitely usable. And plus, if Luka Doncic goes down for any reason, I'm not trying to speak that into existence. But
stop it.
He's. I know. I'm sorry. He's not going down. All right. Jalen Brunson is going to have a role regardless, though. If he likes to play alongside Doncic too. Like Jason Kidd wants Jalen Brunson on the floor, and he's averaging well over 26 minutes per game. All right. He is a great play in DFS to round your lineups as like a cheap option. He's a must own in points league, in my opinion. He's extremely consistent. So if he is out there on your wire and you need those points, those rebounds and assists, I would definitely give him a look.
And I just saw he had a dud last night. He had 4 points. But he still averages 11, 5, and 5 on the season in 6 games. So
yeah, and that game against the Denver Nuggets, I mean, that was a blowout. So you can't really. I can throw that game away. Now it stinks if you had him in your lineup and you were hoping for more, but every single Dallas Maverick, I mean, like they had a struggle of a game. So I'm kind of throwing that out.
They lost by 31. You're right.
Yeah, I mean they got the doors blown off of them. I mean,
well, in the game before he had 19, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals in 30 minutes. So yeah, he played 19 minutes in a big blowout yesterday. So don't let that overwhelm you as far as getting rid of him. Right. Now, people that are in the whole other wavelength of this discussion, guys, we suggest get rid of. We've given up on them, or somebody to really think about. I'm going to let you start off because it is the guy that is most rostered as far as Yahoo is concerned. Again, all of this roster abilities from a Yahoo Friday, midday. So this doesn't include today. Of course, those percentages change every day.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna start with Robert Covington. My goodness, man. He's shooting Rocco, right?
Man.
He is shooting a putrid 30% on the season, along with 4.3 points, 5 rebounds, along with, I mean, a decent 1.3 threes, 1 steal, and 1 block. So he is getting you that coveted triple one, but that horrid field goal percentage, along with that minuscule stat, is concerning, considering he's averaging well over 25 minutes per game. The minutes are still there, so I know it's hard to completely cut him, but I would wait for him to break out and sell him as fast as you can. There's too many mouths to feed in Portland, and he's not doing nearly enough across the board to consider him a must roster outside of the deepest of leagues. And if you're still rostering him in points league, I mean, I get that, steals and blocks, they're very rare, but he's not doing much outside of that. I would be okay with moving on. And especially he's not producing with Norman Powell injured right now, which is very concerning. So I wouldn't mind cutting bait or just waiting for him to finally break out and move him as fast as you can.
It's funny you mentioned Norman Powell because he's on my bubble list as far as I own him in my Yahoo league, 10-team league. He's kind of like one of my last guys, and he gets you points for sure. Right. But with the injury, missing like the last 2-3 games, even last night he was doubtful up until like tip off. And of course, with your West Coast games, East Coast games starting at 7, you can't really change your roster. So I actually had him on my bench, and he hit 4 threes. He got me 3 rebounds, but he really didn't do anything else. I'm out on Rocco. Even last year, I saw this trend. Now, for a career, he's 12.6 rebounds and 3 stocks a game. That's solid in any fantasy league, especially with a power forward center eligibility. But this season, with that dropping down to 4 points a game, even last year, he was single digits. Maybe he's just in his 30s, and this is the decline of Robert Covington, which is a shame because the Blazers spent 2 first-round picks to get him. And they really thought that this was gonna, like, I guess, put them over the edge with this with their lineup. But you lost draft capital when you did that, and who knows? Maybe that's like not having those picks. It puts a stumble block in maybe another potential trade for, say, a CJ McCollum who's going bananas this year. So Robert Covington, sorry, you've been a fantasy stud for maybe 8-9 years since 2010, but I'm with Jacob on this one. I'm done. I'm done with him. So a guy that I had rostered last year, and I cut in the playoffs. So what I loved is in his career, or in the past 2 years, 3.6 threes a game, which is top 5 in the entire NBA. This year he's shooting the same amount of threes. He's averaging 2.5 threes a game. So you'll see that uptick happen. He'll still, give you 3+ threes a game. But outside of like 13 points, which is, his last 2 averages that got him this huge contract, and like 4, 3 rebounds, he doesn't give you anything else. So I am out on Duncan Robinson unless I'm trying to win threes on a Sunday. I like him as a ball player. I think he's a good fit, but I think that with Lowry addition, and then with Tyler Hero just going crazy, I just don't think that you'll see the same type of production that you have in the past. And he's also, like, even with those last 2 years with 3.6 threes a game, which is a category dominator. It's still not gonna it's not gonna win you that for the week. You still got to have other 3-point shooters. So Duncan Robinson doesn't do enough across the board for me to roster him. He's 61%, and it's a -7 this week. I'm giving up on Duncan Robinson. Still love you though.
Yeah, man, this one hurts a little bit because I've been a Duncan truther before he even broke out. I said he has a sweet stroke. He just needs some PT, and the Heat finally gave him that PT, and he blew up. Like, he was on my streamers list for threes for weeks before he became too rostered to qualify for my streaming lists. But Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with Tyler Hero breaking out this year. Like, Tyler Hero was my pick before the season to win Sixth Man of the Year, and I'm sticking by that. I think he's a beast, and he's taken shots away from Duncan, because when Tyler Hero is in, he's the main ball handler, especially with Kyle Lowry missing some time due to injury. So, like
Yeah,
you
his
said,
usage rate is crazy because of how potent he is as an offensive player, and also how good Duncan Robinson is with the ball and off the ball. He's
yeah,
is a great screen setter. He's the guy that makes the first pass quick. He does not hold on to the basketball. He's got a good connection with Bam as far as their little pick and pop play.
right.
So Duncan Robinson is a smart player, good basketball player, but with just how their system is created this year, you'll just see some of these numbers dwindle a little bit, and he was already a borderline rosterable guy. So
Yes,
yeah,
he's a fringe player in 9-cat. He is droppable in points leagues, though. I mean, like
yes,
the past 3 games, he's had 18 points, 15 points, 18 points. You can find a lot more upside on your points league waivers.
yeah, and he's not going to give you anything defensively as far as numbers are
Right.
concerned, even though he tries his best
He
on that
tries.
end. He
Yeah.
does. And
Yeah.
if you pick Tyler Hero, you're grinning. And you're like, yeah, it's the
Yes.
bounce back for the kid that's kind of got it together, who's kind of was getting crapped on by a lot of people last year because even though he increased his points per game from his freshman year, dropping 37 in Eastern Conference Finals, people thought that he was just going to blow up completely.
Right.
Plus, his confidence is so high that he says I should be mentioned with Luka
With
and
Luka.
Trey. You ain't in that category, buddy.
No.
But I still, root for Tyler. Just like a
Yeah.
swagged out
Yeah.
white guy putting buckets up.
He
All right.
is swaggy.
He is. Our next guy, I'm going to let you lead this one. Chris Boucher, who broke out last season for the Toronto Raptors. It's not going so well this year.
Man, Chris Boucher, through 6 games, man, he's averaging just 5 points, 4 rebounds, not doing much of anything. His field goal percentage, 29%. That's gross.
And he's playing 29 minutes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, his minutes have been a little bit scattered, but he's doing this without Siakam.
Yes.
He's struggling without Siakam. You would think that he would blow up without Siakam, but Nick Nurse.
It's young players. It's Ochoa and it's Scotty Barnes that have taken over
Right.
his prowess statistically, but he's still playing.
Who saw Precious Achua before the season? I mean, he did well in the preseason, but Precious Achua was just like a role player on the Heat last year, and now he's taking over Bobby Boucher right now. Like Bobby Boucher, Chris Boucher. Shout out to Waterboy there. But man, I mean, he is well outside the top 150, and when Siakam comes back, Precious Achua has already cemented his role. All right. So it looks like that Chris Boucher is on the outside looking in, and the only saving grace is that he's still getting you those blocks, and blocks is very rare. All right. He's averaging 1.2 blocks. It's not as much as last year. He averaged 1.9 blocks last year, and now he's only averaging 1.2 blocks. Now, blocks are rare, so I get it if you want to hold on to him. But I mean, even last night's game, he had 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 block, and nothing else.
That's underwhelming. So underwhelming.
Underwhelming. If you are absolutely desperate for blocks, sure, you can hold on to him, but I would feel free to drop him anywhere outside of 16+ team leagues.
And he's definitely somebody you star on the watch list, and somebody that
Yes.
if you had him last year, you probably still have him roster, and you question whether you're gonna click drop or not because of that. That 14, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, and even his threes are down. Like those are that's killer in fantasy. But it is a head scratcher that Pascal is out and he's still doing this. Maybe he needs to play with Pascal. Maybe he just doesn't fit with these beefy guys and Precious Achiuwa and Scotty Barnes. Maybe that's the thing. And maybe when Pascal comes back, they have like a tandem where that actually works a lot better to his skill set, that he's got Pascal at the 4 and he's running with that. So someone to keep an eye on, somebody that it's harder for me to let go on. But obviously, if you have him this season, he's been super underwhelming, and I don't blame you. Somebody else that's been underwhelming, and this is almost twofold. because they play on the same team. DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, Danilo Gallinari. The Hawks are just loaded in this one position, and it's hard to put a finger on who's the guy outside of John Collins, Trae Young, and Capella, who are just amazing fantasy players. DeAndre Hunter was a guy that I had last year that was producing more defensively with his numbers. He's just down. Like, he's just having, like, his confidence looks low. I watched the Atlanta Hawks versus Wizards game this week, and he was out there a lot. He played 30 minutes, but he was almost like a non-factor other than his one-on-one defensive ability. And maybe that knee injury is still messing with him. Now Kevin Huerter is something like I can't explain. He got super paid in the offseason, and he was a dynamo in the playoffs, and he basically was playing every minute and helped take his team to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think he had a 29-point game in a closeout against Philly. But this year he's got 2 points in the last 2 games, including that Wizards game that I watched, and he played. That's gross, and he played for the University of Maryland. So you're expecting better numbers coming here to play. He's averaging in 22 minutes a game. He's averaging 5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and that's an uptick. It's 2.6 and 2.5. He's shooting 11% from the 3-point line. You're going to see these numbers increase, but he should not be rostered anywhere. 27% right now, minus 11 on the uptick. Kevin Huerter, I love you as a Maryland fan myself, but right now you cannot be rosterable in any league in any fashion.
Man, it's super hard to roster any of those Hawks forwards and guards.
Jeez.
Like you said, I mean, they are incredibly deep, and they even have Lou Williams making like a little bit of a bench,
usage.
A little bit of a bench splash.
Yeah.
So I think out of all those guys, I would rather have Cam Reddish. I know that he can be very streaky. I don't like his field goal percentage, but Cam Reddish has been producing this year. He has been producing top 120 numbers in points league and in 9-cat leagues. He can disappear every now and then, but for all of the games this year, he scored 20, he scored 19, he scored 17, and then he had a little bit of a dud with just 5 points, but then he scored 20 points to make up for it. So Cam Reddish is someone that I would rather have over Huerter and
Hunter.
DeAndre Hunter.
And Gallo, you should never want to have because he's a walking injury report.
It's funny. I used to be a huge Gallo fan because he was on the Denver Nuggets, and that's when I moved here to Denver. He was my guy, man, the Rooster. But yeah, he's been dealing with injuries. He always has. So yeah, you don't really want to roster Gallo. Maybe he's like a nice, like a DFS rounder if he's cheap and there's other injuries. But I mean, that Hawks team is so loaded that it's really hard to trust anyone on that team. So I'm fine with cutting Huerter and Hunter.
Yeah, and Reddish was Kevin's pick last week, and he's a Duke fan, and he's been looking the part. Like, he has a high usage rate when he gets in the game. I think he's in the top 3 on his team, and he's just looked he looked good when he played those couple games in the playoffs. It was funny how he just got kind of thrown in there towards the end versus the Bucks, even though they were losing. He looked good, and he's a guy that has all the potential. They spent a lottery pick on him, and it's funny because DeAndre Hunter was breaking out last year and Huerter, and now it's like, no, it's my turn. This is me, and Bogdanovich actually is the guy that we haven't mentioned, and he's actually a solid fantasy contributor when he's healthy. So he's actually the guy that I guess tops the list. Now we got one more guy that may hurt some people that we're bringing up, and this is Jacob's take.
Yep. Guys, PJ Washington has been a major disappointment to begin the year. He's missed the last 3 games with a knee injury, which hasn't helped. But in his first 3 games to start the season, he was shooting 29% from the field to go with 6 points, 5.3 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and virtually nothing else.
Except for his defense. He's gotten you numbers there.
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely. Which is definitely his saving grace. But to couple his struggling start and injury Miles Bridges is breaking out in front of our eyes, and backups Cody Martin and Jalen McDaniels has been
Yeah.
playing well. Yeah. So there might not be his usual role once he gets back from that knee injury, which there is no clear timetable, since he was listed as doubtful well before the Hornets game last Friday. I wouldn't mind cutting bait for any of the guys we've already mentioned.
Yeah, and I'm pressing cut on PJ Washington as well. We saw the
Yeah.
first preseason game, Miles Bridges was starting. And I don't know if they were just trying to give the look, but clearly him and LaMelo Ball have an exceptional connection, and he's looking like they're, their power forward of the future. And where PJ Washington was, borderline all rookie guy, that first year was very impressive, looking like a steal. I think it was the late lottery. It might have been pick 15 or 16, but he was looking like a really good NBA player. I think some off the court things have affected PJ Washington a little bit. Now, this is a guy that's 60% rostered. That's minus 22 in the last week. He got in a situation where, the IG girlfriend and,
Oof.
that she's pregnant, then they break up like the next week. That's embarrassing. But, as a young player, you get caught up with the IG models, and, Tyler Hero had a similar thing last year, except he's actually still with the girl. I think that's actually going to be something that helped mature him a lot, as he had a kid. And maybe this year might be the bump year. And then maybe he comes back to production. He's still a power forward center eligible player. And last year he was good enough to be rosterable. So PJ Washington, we're wishing you the best going forward. But right now we cannot keep you on your roster. Now we are getting to one of my favorite parts of the pod, and that is our player of the week performances. Because in the fantasy talk, we talk about a lot of bubble players, right? But we're not spending too much time on the stars. So we definitely want to give love to guys that are actually winning you the week, single-handedly. So Jacob, I want you to start with your guy.
Whew, man, Giannis Antetokounmpo, guys. Last Wednesday, October 27th, against Minnesota, he was 15 for 23. 65% from the field, 7 for 9 from the free throw, which is a sight to see. 40 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 3-pointers, and just 2 turnovers. All right, just a Herculean performance from the former Finals MVP. Before the season started, I went against the grain and touted Giannis as the number 1 pick over guys like Jokic and Luka Doncic in points leagues. Thanks to Giannis's every game high floor and otherworldly ceiling, it's nice to see he's rewarding my confidence in him with games like these. All right, he was my preseason pick to win the MVP, and if the Bucks can get that number 1 or number 2 seed, he is definitely looking like the early favorite to win that award.
Absolutely, and he won the 2 previous years, and he's still the same guy. He's still 28, 12, and I mean his assists is looking at 7, and he's shooting the ball. Like, he's shooting a 3. I know it's 1.2 a game, but like the fact that he's shooting 5 or 6 a game, and he's like, whereas Ben Simmons, we have seen zero progression as far as that's concerned. Giannis Antetokounmpo has at least improved in those areas, and he's coming for the throne. If he's not the best player in the NBA right now, he is. You could make the argument 100%, and I would say that you're right. You can make an argument for KD. I'd say that you're right. You can still make a LeBron comment based on his track record in the past 5 years. But Giannis, the way he closed out the NBA Finals on a 50 piece, and then another 240 pieces off a hurt knee. He is progressed to just an amazing basketball player. It's funny because in that T-Wolves game, they lost off of his 40, 16, and 7.
Right.
But the greatest take, if you haven't seen it yet, was Anthony Edwards talking about him. And I'll let you spend your time on that. But Anthony Edwards is the best post-game interview. He's the best take guy in the league. He's just like class clown. He's just hilarious. So give me he's like, what you gonna do? He's gonna give you buckets.
Right.
So Giannis, shout out Giannis. I actually got him in the 5 slot of my Yahoo Snake League. And I'm like,
Steal.
are you kidding me? I
Love
actually
that.
had a choice of Giannis and Steph. So if I had 6 pick, I was still not mad. Cat was still on the board. Somebody reached on KD going early. So
Dang.
yeah, Giannis, I was like, hell yeah. And because of his, power forward center eligibility, it helped me build my entire team kind of based on well-rounded stats. Like you draft a certain player like a Jokic and an Antetokounmpo that give you something in every single category.
Yeah.
You can go in any type of direction going forward. Whereas if you get Steph, even though, Steph is going to give you rebounds and assists, Steph, dominates in points and three-pointers, and that going forward, you got to address blocks and steals and things of that nature and field goal percentage going forward. So I love your pick. Giannis is just studded out. I got all these stats in my league, and because LeBron missed a lot of time, Brogdon sitting there, I got Kyrie rotting on my bench. I needed everything as far as that's concerned. And
yes,
my guy,
oh man,
that's just taken over the league. A guy that averaged only 18 points a game last year, Ja Morant, who to me is the most improved player in the NBA. He's just a killer. He's taken his team to the playoffs 2 years. Right now, he's averaging 30 points a game, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 2.6 threes, people, on 40%. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
He learned how to shoot threes? The league's, it's over. He
Yeah.
got 2 steals a game. That's what some of the concerns for fantasy last year. He didn't shoot a high percentage. He wasn't giving you threes. His steal wasn't as high as you thought it was. It is. He took over Staples Center, made it look like Rucker Park with playing against the Clippers, and then he dropped a 40 spot on the Lakers in a tough game that they lost barely at the end. That was 40 points. 10 boards, 5 threes. My fault. 10 assists against the Warriors and Steph Curry at 37, 5 assists, 4 steals in a win. And I gotta mention, he went heads up with Steph Curry in the play-in game.
Yeah.
People forget they went out on top or not Oracle, but in LA and took over and put his team into the first round. They won game 1. He was just spectacular. He's coming.
Man.
He's the most electrifying, exciting player in the entire NBA, like visually this season. And if you're a Memphis Grizzlies fan, you probably have 4 Ja Morant jerseys, because 1, they're the most coolest looking jerseys. But 2, he's just like the people's champ.
That's right.
He's dunking all over everybody. So what's your take on Ja and the season that he's going with? I glossed over him. I picked Kyrie Irving, and I probably will. Yeah, I probably will. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning sometimes
in a cold sweat.
And I look and I can't go back to sleep because I made that terrible mistake.
You know what? Ja is just incredible. I was watching that game against the Warriors, and the Warriors got down early, but Ja Morant, he never lost his cool. All right. He is a gamer. I love this guy. He's so passionate. So they fell behind early against Steph Curry. And he battled back. He single-handedly battled back and got them into OT. All right. He is stepping up in the absence of Jonas Valanciunas, who left for the Pelicans over the offseason. And Ja Morant, he is up and coming. I definitely see him making his an all-star appearance this year.
Oh yeah,
making fantasy managers like you just kick themselves for skipping over him on draft day, because he is legit.
Lastly, before we talk a little plug talk, career-wise, he's 19 a game, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. He won the Rookie of the Year, much in part to Zion missing games. Zion career, 26 a game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 60% from the field. He's got an all-star in his resume.
Yep.
Who you got? Who would you rather have?
Oh, who I would rather have is Ja Morant. And it pains me to say that, because I took over for an orphan dynasty team, because they had Giannis and they had the number 1 pick going into that rookie draft. And I picked Zion just because he was such a beast at Duke. I foregone all of the, like Zion's weight and Zion, like his, he's explosive, but can he keep that up long term? I just, at the time, I wanted that splash pick. I wanted to pair Giannis with Zion, and so I went with Zion. But now I'm kicking myself because Ja has proven himself. He has translated his incredible college game into the NBA. I wish I could go back in time and draft Ja, but I'm just crossing my fingers that Zion can get healthy and he can lose some weight, so that his career can be lengthened. But oh man, I'm kicking myself. I wish I had Ja.
Well, no one's mad at you at that pick. I mean, if I'm the Pelicans, I still get Zion based on his potential. And as great
Yeah,
as John Morant is, he doesn't have the same potential as
he doesn't have
Zion.
the same ceiling, right?
Yeah, the spectacular. I mean, look what he's done when he has actually played 26 a game. Like that's a career. That's a career
Oh
average that
yeah,
goes in with the all-time greats. He just produces on every level so efficiently, and he's just an amazing basketball player. But the durability, as we see, John Morant's already in a couple of seasons that played almost 55 more games
right.
total, including taking his team to the playoffs. So, like, of course, for me, a franchise cornerstone in Ja, you go back and of course you want to draft him, but
Right.
nobody's mad at anybody that picked Zion based on potential. Like, it's kind of unlucky. Now Paul George called John Morant like a prime D Rose. The way he's attacking the rim is just incredible.
Dang.
That makes me question things too, though. Like how will that durability withstand itself? Because he goes in there, he is not a big guy, and he's trying to dunk on everybody, he's just
Right.
jumping all over the place.
That's true.
You make it so electrifying and breathtaking to watch, but it does make you think about hopefully injuries don't come because of how vicious he plays the game of basketball.
Right.
Now on the way out, Jacob, this was an awesome first time doing this week 3 fantasy. We might not go this long in the future, but we had a lot to touch on, especially our first time getting together. Do you have anything to plug? Where can we find you? And anything you're working on?
Yeah, man. You can find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, where I put up weekly fantasy basketball streamers for Points League and 9-Cat League. So if you guys want to follow me for that content, follow me. I would love it. And also, guys, I just want to give some advice. Stay active on your waiver wires. This is why we're here. We are here, like James said, to win you your fantasy basketball league. So ride with us and let's win together.
Yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. We'd like to hear your intake. We'd like to hear you say you're crazy for trying to cut Rocco. He's helped me win leagues. I don't mind that. Like we go back and forth.
Yeah.
We're definitely involved. We comment back on the comments. So we're gonna finish with a little blood talk. We are a proud member of the Empire Media Platform. Please tune into Triple Play Fantasy Podcast every week. Triple for baseball, football, and basketball. Yours truly. Our Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel is dropping content every day. This includes college basketball preview. Me and Kev are going to do a little Memphis Tigers action. We've already covered Michigan. We've talked about Duke. We've talked about UCLA. Some of the top tier programs. Gonzaga, which might be my favorite one that we did, going back and forth because I'm big on Chet and he's not as much. Super Fantasy Bros, Between the Seams, Triple Play Fantasy Football Start Sit Show that comes out every Sunday morning. That's Jacob and David. Triple Play Fantasy Foodies, just to name a few. The way too early 2022 NBA mock draft lottery style is still up and gaining some attention. Please check that out and tell me why Jaden Hardy or Paolo Boncaro should go number 1 over Chet Holmgren. Check us out on Twitter and IG at Triple Fantasy. Shout out to Fantrax, Fantasy Points, D-Mini, Doc, Little Cheesecake, Brassidonis, Kev, Jacob, Marty, and Mac, and everyone on the Triple Play Fantasy team that keeps this engine running. Thanks again from Triple Play Fantasy. Like always, stay safe. Continue to love game of basketball like we do. Feel free to share with your friends. Hit that subscribe and like button. That's all we have this week.